Hey, welcome back to the podcast. So, today we are going to be talking about birth control. I do a lot of conversations and talking about birth control, and some people would probably even say that I am against birth control. And they're not totally wrong in saying that. I think that there are a lot of negative effects of birth control that are not talked about enough. And my biggest thing is that I wish I had been more informed when I was put on birth control and throughout my entire journey of nearly 10 years being on birth control. So I wish that more women were being better informed before they choose to go on birth control and then continually as they are on it. It's not that I think across the board birth control is a terrible choice or that it shouldn't be available to us. I do think that it has its place and it is a perfectly fine choice for people to make for themselves. I do not judge people that choose to be on birth control, but I do also want to help provide the education behind why I feel the way that I do about birth control so that number one, you understand it, but then number two, you can also, if you are on birth control, help support your body in the best way that you can while you're on the birth control and help not completely take away some of the effects of the birth control, but you can help mitigate them to a certain extent. So I want to break down for you one the kind of the biggest reason or biggest reasons why I feel that birth control is not the best option or shouldn't just be the automatic option that you jump to if you're trying to mitigate or get rid of a symptom that is causing you problems, which is a common reason that people start on birth control in the first place. Now, obviously, some people are strictly on birth control for pregnancy prevention. And again, that would be a different topic for a different day, but we could get into a conversation on fertility awareness method and the percentage of efficacy for birth control versus fertility awareness method and kind of dispel some myths there. But maybe we'll do that in another episode. Today, I just want to focus on the birth control. So, one of the biggest reasons that I do not like birth control is that it shuts down the communication between your ovaries and your brain. Um, and then because of that, your body is really not creating its own hormones. You are only having the hormones that you are ingesting through that birth control pill. And, it's all synthetic. You're also, and some women don't know this, so you're also not having an actual period every month. You are having what we call a withdrawal bleed because and some of the birth control packs are even labeled this way, those white pills, they may not be white in your pack, but they commonly are, or they're commonly a different color. Those are kind of like blank pills or sugar pills. They don't actually have the hormones in them the way that the other pills do, and that will trigger you to have a withdrawal bleed. Whereas if you were having an actual period, there would have been, a building up of your endometrial lining throughout the month. Your body would have been preparing to support a pregnancy because that's its goal every month when, the hormones are not being controlled and your own hormones are in control. And, like I said, that is just not happening when you're on birth control. So that's the number one reason. It just doesn't sit well with me to think that there is this physiological process that my body was literally created and designed to do every month and have this communication between my ovaries and my brain for that to just be shut off. That doesn't sit well with me. It just doesn't feel right. And I also should have said this in the beginning, but I have my own personal story with birth control and how I felt on it and how it affected me and how it affected me when I came off of it. And that is also something that I'm not going to get into in this episode, but I do share it on my blog and in previous episodes. So you're welcome to check that out if that interests you, like kind of personally why I landed on this stance that I have about birth control. So then the second biggest reason that I do not like the birth control pill is because of the mineral depletion that it causes while you are on it. And this is something that I really think there is a big piece of education missing, and women are not being informed of while they're on the birth control pill. Because not that we can totally replenish what the birth control pill is depleting, but we could sure do some of it if we know about it and know that we need to be taking a high quality vitamin, high quality mineral supplement while on the birth control pill instead of just, being given the pill and sent out the door, which is basically what happens in a lot of appointments. So I wanted to break down for you. Let's see, we've got 7 sections here because some of them there's more than one things that are depleted by the birth control pill. And I'm going to read through the list first, and then I want to go back and I want to talk about how this is relevant or how it impacts you for each one. So first up, we've got our B vitamins. This is B2, B6, B12, and folate. Then we've got magnesium, zinc, selenium, vitamin C, vitamin E, CoQ10. And then this is kind of a category of its own a little bit, but it does also alter the gut flora. So it's not necessarily that it depletes probiotics. That's not really the right way to say that, I don't think, but it's kind of what I'm getting at, or that you would need probiotics while you're on the birth control pill, but that's what it is doing is it's disrupting that gut flora. So I want to circle back and talk through why this matters, really. So first up, let's talk about the B vitamins. When you are deficient in your B vitamins, this is going to affect your neurotransmitter synthesis. It's going to affect methylation, your energy production. B6 specifically, when it's depleted, can contribute to you having more mood issues or mood swings. Magnesium. Magnesium is required for over 300 enzyme processes in our body. So depletion, obviously affects that. If we don't have enough of it, it can't be doing those processes, those reactions effectively. It can also contribute to higher levels of anxiety. It can cause muscle cramps and muscle tension. And then it can also create some PMS-like symptoms. I want to jump next to zinc. Zinc is really important for our immune function, so it can set you up for getting frequent infections. Or if you think of like people that constantly catch a cold, or if they're around anyone that's sick, they catch whatever they have. So it kind of compromises the immune system. It impacts your skin health, mood regulation. And then we get into anytime we talk about zinc, you guys have probably heard me also talk about copper. So if we don't have enough zinc, if it's being depleted, then that can throw off our copper levels as well. Next up, we have selenium. So you probably already are aware that selenium is very important for our thyroid to be able to function the way that it does when it's, optimally functioning. So that birth control pill is depleting selenium, and therefore we see typically a slowdown in your thyroid function. Selenium also does protect us. It's like an antioxidant and can help protect us. Vitamin C and vitamin E, we kind of lump together. Again, these also are antioxidants that we need to help protect us. Antioxidants help protect us from oxidative stress. So kind of the breakdown and processing of environmental toxins and medications and just like things we're exposed to in our environment. So we want to have plenty of those antioxidants to help protect our body and help protect our cells specifically. CoQ10 is very important for the mitochondria, which if you remember from middle school, the mitochondria is the powerhouse of the cell. Anybody remember that from, I think it was in 7th grade when I had to make a Jello cell model. Anyway, you need CoQ10 to help support your mitochondrial function. And obviously, if the powerhouse of our cell is not working efficiently, then our cells are not as healthy, and our cells impact every process that we do. So that, you know, later down the effect, the stream of things can contribute to fatigue and low energy and energy crashes. And then lastly, like I said, I want to talk a little bit about the gut flora and probiotics. So when you're taking the birth control pill, it's disrupting the flora that's there. Your flora is like the mix of bacteria that lines your gut. And there's good bacteria and bad bacteria. And we always want to keep a good balance of good bacteria and bad bacteria. We don't want to get into a situation where we have more bad bacteria than we have good bacteria. Because then we get GI symptoms. And that also can then impact estrogen recycling. Even though it's synthetic estrogen, it can impact your gallbladder, it can impact your liver health. Again, just like most things that we talk about when it's hormone related, there's this trickle down effect or the snowball effect of like when one thing happens, then it leads to another and another and another. Um, so, although, like I've said earlier, we can't totally mitigate that depletion from happening. But if you don't have any idea that that is going on, then you might just take your birth control pill for years at a time with no other supplements or support outside of what you're getting in your diet. And depending on how healthy you are with your diet, it might not be very good. Um, so, one reason that I share this is because I want you to be informed of what is being depleted, and that honestly just that depletion is occurring in the first place, because so many women don't even know that. And that way, if you're still remaining on a birth control pill, you can choose a high quality supplement to help you keep those, B vitamins, vitamin C, vitamin E, keep those things replenished in your body. Um, This is also very important to know and be aware of for when you are preparing to come off of birth control. And that can be for any reason. That can be because you want to get pregnant. It can be because you just decide you want to stop. Um, if we can work ahead 3 to 6 months before you actually stop the pill, and we can work really intentionally on replenishing these nutrients that have been depleted, then you are much less likely to experience a bunch of negative symptoms and side effects when you come off the pill or lose your period altogether, which is, what happened to me. Now, okay, so we've covered the shutdown of the ovaries. We've covered the depletion of minerals. The last thing that I want to talk about that I do not like about birth control and don't love when women are on it for kind of no particular reason, they've just like always been on it, they don't know any different, and that's just what they're choosing to do, is that there are a lot of symptoms that can come up for women while they're on the birth control pill that can be directly related back to the birth control pill. But providers are sometimes a little hesitant to do that, or to say, like, yeah, I think it's probably the birth control pill, because there can be other reasons. And I'm not discrediting that. That is true. But at the same time, there are a lot of things the birth control pill can be causing. And then if it were stopped and you were transitioned to just fertility awareness or some other method of, I don't want to say the word birth control, some other method of pregnancy prevention, we'll put it that way, then a lot of these symptoms could be taken care of. So this is things like mood swings, depression, or anxiety. This is super common to pop up in women, and it's a lot of times related back to that B6 depletion, the gut flora getting disrupted while you're on birth control. And then birth control can also affect your sex binding globulins, sex hormone binding globulin. it increases when you're on birth control. And so that is affecting your testosterone. And, we don't talk a lot about testosterone when it comes to women, but it is still really important for women. And it does absolutely impact the way you feel when you don't have enough testosterone. And it can impact your fatigue, which is what we're going to talk about next, but then it also can impact your mood. Okay, so let's skip on to fatigue. Um, Low energy crashes and fatigue, super common in women that are on birth control. And it comes back to that mitochondrial depletion that we talked about a little bit ago, and then also the thyroid suppression. Um, and a lot of times this one will get blown off in particular because either you are back on birth control after having kids and somebody is telling you like, well, you've got these kids now, you're chasing them around or you're up in the middle of the night with the baby and you're not sleeping through the night and that's probably why you're tired. Well, it's like, yeah, that also, those things are true. They probably are contributing, but there's also this depletion going on that is contributing to all of that and making it worse. Okay, next up we have low libido. And this one is typically caused again by that elevation of your sex hormone binding globulin, lowering that testosterone. And then again, just like your brain and your ovaries are not communicating. So you're not having a natural fluctuation of your hormones throughout the month where, and you're not ovulating. So, like, ovulation is the time when, for most women, your libido is at the highest. And that is specifically designed that way because that is when you can get pregnant in the month. And we've cut that whole process out. So it's not surprising that a lot of women will have low libido on the birth control pill. Then we've got weight gain and fluid retention. This is often linked back to cortisol and the impact that, like, the depletion that you're having overall. And for some people, being on birth control in general can be very inflammatory to the body. So then that inflammatory process can impact things like your blood sugar levels and your cortisol production and your cortisol pattern throughout the day. And then that leads to the weight gain or the fluid retention. And also, as we've already mentioned numerous times, the mitochondrial depletion and thyroid suppression that, of course, would lead to weight gain. We've already talked about GI distress a couple different times, but again, it's because the birth control pill disrupts that flora. It also impacts bile flow and the lining of your gut. So this is why a lot of women that have been on birth control or are on birth control especially for long periods of time or extended periods of time, will get diagnosed with gallbladder disease and have to have their gallbladder removed, and will sometimes get an IBS diagnosis. And then the last one that I want to touch on is hair loss and acne. Um, it kind of depends on the makeup of the birth control pill or IUD or implant or whatever it might be that you're using. But the synthetic form of the progesterone that's in there, the progestin, can sometimes trigger hair loss and acne. Aside from that, zinc, we already talked about, zinc is heavily related to your skin health, and obviously acne is on our skin. So there's a link there as well. Now, again, I don't want all of this to come off as like super duper negative. I just want it to be informative. I want to help educate you because these are things that, I was on birth control for almost 10 years and I did not know any of these things. None of them whatsoever while I was on the pill. And I wish that I had. I'm not saying that at that time in my life it would have changed my mind about being on the pill itself, but I absolutely would have taken steps to take better care of myself and choose supplements a little wiser or choose them in the first place, had I known all of this. And that's what I would encourage you to do. If you are looking for a really good, well-rounded multivitamin, I have had a hard time in the past recommending a multivitamin because there's just, when we go to talking about minerals and mineral testing, there's a lot to consider with the formulations and the amount of like each vitamin or mineral that they put in there and how that interacts with one another and how well the body can absorb it. And so I've had a really hard time in the past recommending anything, honestly, that was a multivitamin, multi-mineral type of supplement. I have recently landed on one that I really like. It is from Thorne. It's their 2-a-day basic nutrients. Personally, I like to take one with my breakfast and one with my lunch. And then I do always love and have always loved the brand Fullwell, their prenatal vitamin. So for someone that is knowing in the next, I would say year, honestly, that you want to become pregnant or start trying to become pregnant, I would go the prenatal route and I would do the Fullwell brand. That dosage is 8 capsules. I know that is a lot. It's a lot of pills to swallow. So I like to split mine up, 4 in the morning, 4 at lunch, to make it just a little more palatable. That would be my number. That would be my number one and my number two recommendation there. I also obviously would encourage you guys to consider H2MA testing so that we could see exactly where it is that you're at with your levels of depletion and imbalance and can maybe target them a little more specifically than with just the multivitamin. Because sometimes there are like really customized tweaks or specific targets that we need to address in order to support you in the best way possible. So also, if you're looking, especially like that Thorne supplement, if you're looking to order supplements, make sure that you're on my email list. I send this out every once in a while. Um, and if you ever needed it, you can just reach out to me and be like, hey, can I get that link? But I do have a Full Scripts store, a Full Scripts account. That is it's a website, it's a company that you can order supplements of various different brands all together in one order. So you only pay shipping once and you get a discount on them. I think it's 10%. So I absolutely love Full Scripts. I try my best to recommend most any of the supplements that I use with my clients. There's a few that you can't get on there, like Fullwell. And then there's some like detox things that you can't get on there that I have a company that I really, really love and I will recommend. But for the most part, Full Scripts has just about anything you need. And they have super fast shipping. And then of course you get that discount. And you're not ordering from 5 different places and paying shipping 5 different times. So it's always a win-win. So like I said, I share that link pretty regularly with the people in my email community. That way everybody can get signed up and take advantage. But if you ever need it, just send me an email or a DM on Instagram or something and ask me. I can shoot it over for you. So as I close out today, I do just want to remind everybody to make sure that you are subscribing to the podcast so that you don't miss an episode. I put out a new episode every Tuesday, and then also get signed up for my newsletter. So there is a link for that in the show notes. My newsletter comes out on Thursday mornings. It is your weekly hormone check-in. I cover a topic that is totally different from the topic that we have just chatted about here on the podcast. So it's a great way to plug in, come into my community and get some more education, get some more hormones, tips and tricks and help. And if you're someone that is listening to this and you're like, yeah, I need all of this. I need help. I need guidance. I would love to do some testing and see where I'm at. If you specifically are struggling with PMS, painful period cramps, heavy bleeding, or infertility struggles, that is who I love to work with inside my programs and do testing and help you solve those problems. So there is also a link in the show notes to go to my website where you can apply to work with me. I would love to support you in that and help you in any way that I can. So I hope everyone has a great week and we'll talk next Tuesday.